Hello there, my name is Trevor Ranger, and for those of you that don't know me, I'm married to Ruth and we live in Chippenham in Wiltshire, and I have a great job. My job is to go into local schools and churches and to support them in any way I can, but particularly to talk to children and young people and to grown-ups about Jesus and about what the Bible teaches. It's a fantastic job to have, but it's one that's obviously quite badly affected by this coronavirus. Speaking of which, I wonder if you can make the connection between the virus that we're experiencing in some way or another right now with this picture, which is a picture of the island of Burano in Italy, and the shortest book in the whole of the Bible. At least it's the shortest in terms of the number of verses. Worked it out yet? Well, I doubt if you have, but let me see if I can explain. This coronavirus has affected us all in one way or another, for some people much more than others. For many people at the moment, it's a difficult time when they're thinking about their health or the health of loved ones. They're thinking about their finances because they've been furloughed, or because they're a business owner, or maybe they're self-employed and struggling to find enough work. Or perhaps they're struggling with relationships. This lockdown has meant that people have been pushed together in ways that they wouldn't normally. One of the hardest issues that people are facing at the moment is not knowing what lies ahead of us. This is a very new virus, and even the experts don't yet understand it fully. We don't know when a treatment or a vaccine will become available. We don't know when the restrictions will be lifted, and we don't know what plans we can make for the future. I don't know about you, but my diary is a right old mess at the moment. It's full of all sorts of crossings out of appointments that have had to be cancelled and meetings rearranged, and instead of actually meeting with people, we're now having to Zoom with people or Skype people. And looking to the future, there are many, many appointments, and I don't know how many, if any of them, I'm going to be able to keep because of restrictions. In terms of the number of verses, the shortest book in the Bible is a letter written by the Apostle John. It's his second letter, and most commentators believe that he's writing to a particular church, a Christian church in Asia Minor, which is now modern-day Turkey. Certain leaders claiming to be Christians were coming to them for hospitality. They wanted food, they wanted somewhere to stay, but whereas some of them could be trusted, others couldn't. John tells the church that genuine Christian leaders and evangelists and itinerant preachers should display three characteristics that mark them out from those who are not genuine. Christians are supposed to be people who should be walking in the truth of God. That's what John says, walking in the truth of God. They should also be walking in obedience to God's commands, not just going their own way, but listening to what God has said and obeying what God has commanded. And they should also be walking in the love of God, a love which originates from God, because all love comes from God. So when someone is walking in truth and walking in obedience and walking in love, they could be said to be walking with God. Christians who are walking with God choose to put their hand in His and trust Him for one step at a time. And many of us consider our Christian lives as being a walk with God. Now to this picture. This picture was actually taken some years ago. It was a photograph that was taken by my wife Ruth when we were on holiday in Italy with our children, some 19 years ago, as I say. We'd spent a busy and a hot morning in Venice, and in the afternoon we took a boat to the beautiful island of Burano, which is just off the coast of Venice. Now if you look closely at this picture, you might just be able to make out on the far side a couple of figures. You can see a man holding a little girl's hand as they're walking along the quayside. Well, I'm that man, and the little girl is our daughter Joanna. She was just 5 years old at the time and was quite content to hold my hand. She knows that I love her and that she's safe. She's not worried about falling into the canal because she's got hold of my hand. She doesn't know where we're going, she doesn't know what's round the bend, she doesn't know what she's going to see or what she's going to experience, but she doesn't mind because she's walking hand in hand with someone she knows loves her and cares about her very much. But look again at the picture and you'll see another figure on the far side up here. It's a picture of a boy walking about 10 to 15 yards ahead. It's actually our son Samuel, who at the time was 9 years old and who loved exploring. Whenever we went out for a walk, he would always walk ahead of us. He always wanted to be that one step ahead, looking at what was going on around. He wanted to be the first to discover that boat, or to discover that brightly painted house, or discover that tower, or that new canal, or that bridge. He always wanted to be the first so he could call back to us and tell us what we were about to experience. Now, he was only a few yards ahead, and at any given point he could hear me calling out to him, and he could turn around and see me. Everything was perfectly okay here. He was still walking with us. But one day, not on this holiday day, but on another occasion, he started to run ahead. He ran ahead of us so far that I actually went round the corner and didn't notice that we had taken a different route. For a while he was out of sight, and whilst he was out of sight and he turned round and realised he was on his own, he realised he'd lost his way. For a short period of time he was very much isolated. He was scared and he was vulnerable. He'd lost touch with the very people who loved him most, and for that short period of time when he was lost, even though we knew where he was worried. You know, when the Apostle John describes the people who are deceivers and who are not walking with God, he says these words in verse 9. He says, "Anyone who runs ahead and does not continue in the teaching of Christ does not have God." That's serious stuff. Basically, what John is saying is they've let go of God's hand. They're no longer listening to what God is saying. They've lost touch with God. They're no longer walking with him. Today we have so many questions about the coronavirus and what the future holds. We want to know when we can meet as a church again. We miss being together. We miss singing together, worshipping God together, and praying together, having communion together, and yes, even having a cup of tea and a biscuit together. We miss that. We want to know when we can be with our family and friends again. We don't just want to see them on a small screen on a computer. We actually want to spend time with them, to be with them, to hug them, to enjoy a meal with them. We want to know where a cure or a vaccine will be available for this virus, because until it is, it's hard to see how we can go back to being normal. There's nothing wrong in asking those questions, but there is a danger that we might run on ahead. We must accept that nobody has the answers, that is, except for God. Only he knows what lies ahead. And today he simply wants us to walk with him. There is always a danger that when we run on ahead of God, and when we let go of his hand, and when we lose patience, we stop trusting him. And yet he is the one person, the one who knows what's around the corner. We shouldn't be letting go of his hand, or at least not being out of sight of him. We need to spend time with him. We need to walk with him and to be with him each and every day. I leave you with these words from Corrie ten Boom, who herself knew what it was like to live with uncertainty. She said, "Never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God." We can know God through the life and the words of Jesus himself, and as we read our Bibles, yes, we can know God. So, let's enjoy the walk.